Shabbat Shalom and welcome to the Hebrew Woman Show, everybody. No, we're late, but man, I have a lot to share with you guys today. But first and foremost, we always ask that the Most High lead this stream today and that His will be done. Hallelujah. Amen. So listen, let's just get right into it. We do our standard script. So the purpose of this channel is to explore our biblical principles. And it's a channel for women, by women. It's a space that has been cultivated and curated so that we can grow in leadership. A lot of times women underestimate and forget just how often we show up as leaders at home, at work, and in our communities. So this is an opportunity for us to come together in fellowship and level up and lead, okay? And one of the first things that we do as women of faith is we understand that we have to examine ourselves. 2 Corinthians 13:5 says, examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how Christ is in you, except ye be reprobate. And so, I had told you guys, as I was reading the John Maxwell books, and years ago, when I was into all things Oprah, I used to get O Magazine, which I still do. And there was a Martha Beck article talking about what to do if you are, just to expand your circle or if you're new to a city. And one of the things she suggested was going to an OA meeting. And she was saying that, people who struggle with food, or even if you don't struggle with food, anybody that is on the standard American diet, whether you believe it or not, you have a problem with food to some degree or another because this food is just not healthy. Now, of course, there are a lot of people who have transcended and they are eating clean and taking care of themselves. But for those of us, we know the numbers of struggling with obesity, such as myself. I am ready to embark upon a new mission, a new goal in life, and I tied my health journey to my leadership program. And so you'll see some of that incorporated here as well, because that is part of my examining myself. And, we really are going to do a deep dive into what this examination looks like. And here we strive to be women of Titus. Titus 2:1 teaches us that as women and men, but this is a channel for women, okay? But we are to be teachers of good things. It says, but speak thou things which become sound doctrine, that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, in patience. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior that becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to too much wine, teachers of good things. If you are an older woman and you are out here encouraging younger women to engage in behavior that not only diminishes them as women, but puts them in situations to where when they look back at their lives, they're looking back in shame and guilt and blame. Shame is a useless emotion. It serves no purpose. And really, I think in some cases, people use it as a weapon now, because if you could just, oh, I feel so shameful and I feel so guilty, and then you allow that shame and guilt to hold you down, it becomes an excuse. And it keeps you from being productive. So we want to engage in behavior that even prevents us from even getting into that cycle. And if you're a younger woman, I think it is the responsibility of older women like me who learned a lot of lessons the hard way to come and talk about these things so you don't have to. I'm a person, even as now, I've watched even in leadership, friends, coworkers learn some awful lessons. I don't need to follow behind them to learn the lesson. I am a person who can watch and not do. I don't need to touch the stove just to make sure it's hot after I've watched you burn the hell out of yourself, okay? I want to talk a little bit about our surrendering, because as we've been going through this leadership process, and I was listening to John Maxwell talk about the serenity prayer, and that reminded me of the OA meetings, because that's a 12-step program for overeating, undereating, over exercises, people who just have emotional overeaters or emotional eaters, period. I'm an emotional eater. and it's a program for people who, whatever you do with food, okay, whatever your issue is with food, you can go there. And you really, it's a diverse community, and you really just have to explore it. And that's what I've been doing this last month. I've just been exploring the different meetings, and some, are not so much for me, and others I found entertaining. But literally, that's not what any of this is for, including this channel. Recovery programs are not for entertainment. This channel is not for entertainment. This is about your growth spiritually. And that's what recovery programs are for. Because whether you're struggling with food, alcohol, drugs, anger management issues, control issues, that Jezebel spirit, a lot of people, we don't want to talk about that, but you're controlling, you're manipulating, you want to control everything your kids, your family, your husband does. You cannot let go. That is a spiritual issue. And, I like the Dwayne Dyer books, and we're going to get into having all of that. There is a spiritual solution to every problem. So, what I have done and what I have spent time doing today, because I realized, one of the things that in every community, when you're trying to make change, you have to build a community. And so I was like, I can't just talk the talk, I have to build a community for us to go to. So, I have created the Facebook page, and it is quite nice, I think. I will show it to you all right now. And I want you to go join. Now, here is the caveat. This is a private group. It will not be open. People who are interested in joining, you are going to have to go through a vetting process, because this is going to be a page for professionals and people who are trying to change their lives. And I'm not going to have the space disrupted by people who just want to come in playing. And it's just not going to be that. And so I would say to you, if you're a person who you're looking for crowds and things like that, this is a spank brand new group. There's nobody in here. It is going to be a place that is going to probably be small, because the Bible tells us that only a remnant. You understand what a remnant is? A remnant is something very small. Only a remnant will be interested in following this. I even had a woman reach out to me in the OA program and ask me would I go through the steps with her. And since I hadn't been through them, because I'm just exploring the space, I was like, sure. But I said, but whatever I do, the reason why just like with the John Maxwell book, the reason why I'm even entertaining the 12-step program is because I know all the spiritual principles that go along with those. So for step one, powerlessness, I told her we read Jonah. And of course, the next day she was like, I thought about it and I'm going to pass. Like when you start talking about that Bible, people don't want to get in there. So as you can see, this is the page for us. This is the Women of Titus Leadership Foundation. That's the link in the chat. So click it and join it. I already have the journaling prompts for today, for after today's show. These are your prompts for the week. Coming soon, we'll have some things coming up, but the page is set up, the community is set up and ready to go. You will not have to worry about just anybody being in there. You can create a fake profile and post in there. However, in order for me to let you in, you will have to identify yourself. Again, we are only having professionals and people who are interested in growth and development in that space. It's not a free for all. I don't care if it just stays empty. But I wanted to create the space because I don't think it's right to tell people they need to do something and not create the space for them to get it. So whether you go in there to join to develop a plan of cleaning up your eating and changing your health this year, transforming your family, coming up with a financial plan to get your budget in order, you want to change jobs, whatever you're going to do, you're going to go through. You can do it in a group and post, and that way you'll have a community of people who will be there to give you feedback if you want it. If you don't, you can put on the post. No feedback. I'm just putting this out here because I want to claim my seat and say this is what I'm doing. Okay. So back to our regular side. I want to talk about, so for the one thing I realized as I've been really toiling with these programs this month is that my whole purpose for the Hebrew Woman show is to chronicle and share my leadership and spiritual growth. And so one of the first step in the leadership program is powerlessness, right? And so I got to thinking about that. What does that look like in terms of uh, our leadership program, and what does it look like in terms of, because the first law is the law of the lid, but I got to thinking about that powerlessness and what does that mean? That's just not a one of the 12 traditions of any of those 12-step programs. That is a foundational principle, biblical principle, that we surrender our lives over to the true and living God. Sovereignty, core concepts and purpose. Sovereignty is a supreme authority. Biblically, it means acknowledging that God alone has authority over our lives, not our emotions, impulses, fears, and ego. And before we attempt leadership of others, we first surrender leadership of ourselves to God. In John Maxwell's book, the self-aware leader, he says the hardest person to lead is yourself. And that is true. So before we jump in and we're going to fix other people and we're going to fix our team, and I know you guys go back, you remember when I went through the NLA leadership program, my intention of going through that program was I was going to create a leadership plan for my team at work. And what ended up coming out of that was the realization that I needed to create a leadership plan for myself. These last 4 months that I went through that program in Focus St. Louis have really helped me. And listen, it wasn't just those programs. Keep in mind, we had already started the Maxwell series. My first class when I got promoted was a leadership class on my job, and one of the teachers was Maxwell certified. And it didn't even click with me. But so I just started exploring leadership and ran across Maxwell. It wasn't until my silly self went back to the class and we got to talking about the book, and he said again he was Maxwell certified, and I was like, oh. So we're hopefully over on the Working Class Chronicles, we will invite him over to share some of his gems with us. And I have to tell you, if it was in my budget, I would be getting Maxwell certified. But hopefully that will be coming soon. That is how much I really appreciate the content and the books and the spiritual foundation that it's based on. And so biblically, we're talking about what submitting ourselves, what surrendering our will and our lives over to God, what that means. And James 4 and 7 says, submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. This emphasizes actively yielding to God's will and actively fighting temptation. We know that God told us that he would not put more on us than we can bear. So when those temptations come, if we stop trying to do it ourselves and surrender over to his will, we know that we have help. So whatever you're struggling with, the help is there. But the first step is admitting that you have been trying to control it. And your way obviously isn't working, because if it was, you'd have a perfect life, right? And you'd be doing whatever. First Peter 5 and 7 says, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. This speaking to releasing worries and burdens and trusting in God's provision. So knowing that just like he clothes the lilies in the field and he takes care of the sparrow, that if we trust that he will do the same for us, we will be able to move forward and be more productive. Romans 12, 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice. That means you are releasing and letting go of all this. You are a living sacrifice. You're saying, God, have your way. Holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of God. So what this is encouraging you to do is dedicating your whole self to God as a living sacrifice, transforming your life and renewing your mind. And lastly, Psalm 25 and 1, he said, oh Lord, I lift up my soul. Oh my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed. This is a prayer of reliance and trust in God. And that's something that we have to be habitual about. And that is the purpose of doing this training, these exercises. And that's why I decided to level this up for you guys. That is why there is a Facebook group now, and that is why there will be content in there for you to do. There are exercises there for you to do, and a place for you to come and post your goals and what you're doing out loud so that you can be held accountable. And I think having a support group always helps, right? And so it's easy to say, turn your life over to God. People say that all the time. And that was one of the things that irritated me about the church community when I used to be in it is we're always telling people to do something, but we don't give them the tools. We don't help them do it. What does that mean? And when we say humble yourself, that means acknowledging God's sovereignty and your need for him. So that means that you're letting go. You're not trying to fix it anymore because you see your way isn't working and you want him to have his way in your life, your relationships, your job, all of that stuff, all these vain vanities that we invest in, these lies that we tell ourselves, we are willing to completely let those go. And we are willing to, number two, pray and confess. Talk to God and ask for forgiveness. Give him your burdens. And listen, just like they have tools in those 12-step programs, we have our own tools. We have our Bible. That's our first and primary tool. Then we have these books right now that we're studying. Journaling, meditating, prayer. These are the tools in any of these programs. And I'm looking at these programs, I'm telling you, I'm really exploring them. The tools work, and if you look at your Bible, you will see that these programs were based off the Bible. They're based off of biblical principles, right? Pray and confess, talk to God, ask for forgiveness, and give him your burdens. Write it down, guys. Talk to the Most High. It's just like any other relationship that you develop. If you do not communicate in your marriage, if you don't communicate with your children, you're not going to have good relationships. Resist evil. Actively fight temptation and Satan's influence, knowing God gives strength. Again, we go back. He's not going to tempt you beyond that which you can withstand. And so that means when you're faced with something and you feel like, oh, I got to have a drink. Oh, I got to eat this. Oh, I got to control this. Whatever your vice or your issues are, whatever, you know what your habits are. You know what things you want to put down to serve God. You want to lay that down on the altar and let him take that from you. And so I have added an additional tool which I forgot to add to the slide. But Williamson's A Course in Weight Loss is another tool that we are going to use here because this is my journey. And as always, I want to hear about your journey. What are you struggling with? What are you dealing with? Are you dealing with anger management? Do you have a Jezebel spirit? Are you trying to control everybody and everything? Do you have a gambling habit, smoking, bad diet? What is your vice? Okay, and just share it, and you can share it in the group. But again, the group is private. It will be vetted. Not anybody and everybody is going to be able to be in there. So don't worry about that. So number four, seek him. Draw not near the Lord with scripture, with prayer, scripture, and worship. He promises to draw near you. So it's about building a relationship again. You can't say, oh, I want to have a great marriage. I want to have a great relationship with my kids, but you're not doing the work to build that relationship and spend time. The Most High is the same way. We want to create a daily habit, and we will do these with these books. And I will show you. We're going to create a daily habit of spending time with the Most High. And number five, last and most importantly, again, we go back to yielding control. Let go of the illusion of self-control. Trusting God to lead and guide, like a trapeze artist, letting go to be caught. Listen, letting go, surrender is hard because you were raised from K through 12 to be autonomous. You were raised from K through 12 all the way up to now in a country that teaches rebellion, a rebellious spirit. That don't tread on me flag. Like that is the epitome of rebelliousness. I want to do what I want to do, and don't you get in my way. I don't want any laws. That's just not realistic. That's not real. Even the idea of don't tread on me because I'm an American and I can do what I want to do It is an illusion. It is a lie because you have to yield and adhere to the laws and statutes of this country. So why do you think that if man has enough sense to know that you need to follow their laws and statutes, that you think that you're going to serve a God and you don't have to follow his? That's just something to think about. And as a friend of mine used to say, if you think about it, it makes sense. Okay, so the renewing of your mind, like you hear that all the time. What is that? What does that mean? Romans 12 and 1 and 2 says, tells us to present ourselves as a living sacrifice so that we can be transformed through the renewing of our minds. So, what does that look like in everyday life? What does renewing my mind look like? So, it'll be daily immersion in scriptures. Just like you feed your body, you got to feed your mind. So, we're going to start each day with reading some scripture. And I'm not talking about, this is formatted. And I'll just get to the books in a minute and we'll show you how we do this. Let me hurry up and go through these so we can get to, because we are going to listen to law number 9, the law of magnetism. But we'll talk more about the tools here of meditation and reflection. You know, meditation isn't just emptying your mind, and it's about filling it with God's truth. You know, the Bible tells us to meditate and pray on the law, to pray on His word, prayer for confession and alignment. If Get you a journal, write that stuff down, release it, let it go. And then lastly, a community and accountability. That's why I created the Facebook space, because I said, how can I tell you guys we need to fellowship if I don't create a space for you to fellowship? So not only are we having the Facebook community, I have had for a couple of years, I believe, a Women of Titus clubhouse room, and I will post it in the group. So daily, or at least as often as I can during the week. And if this is a call to service as well, that for the women in this community, that you take on some of the responsibilities of hosting spaces, whether you want to do it on Clubhouse, Zoom, or wherever, but you come host and participate in conversations and lead conversations, so that people who, rather during their workday, you just want to have a work session, and where, because sometimes it's nice to just fellowship while you're working and talk and chat during the day and share what you're doing. I want us to be able to do that. So I do have a room on Clubhouse, and I'll share that as well. And I will definitely make sure I'm holding space at least an hour or two during the day for that. You know, our whole purpose is to create a vision for yourself. In this program, you all will develop your own personal leadership plan. You're going to start out with some SMART goals to help you create and develop the leadership plan for yourself, because really this is about your personal growth. And you really want to take these 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. So I created this PDF for you to print out. And this is something that you can have and you can restructure, and we can even do some cards if you need to. So this is your reference. And you just email me for the PDF, or you can go online and copy the laws there and create your own sheet. But you want to have these things because this is your starting point. This is what you're referencing as you do these things. And then in the group, you will create a SMART plan for leadership, your leadership goals. And SMART means it has to be specific, measurable, action oriented, relevant, time bound, and scripture for us, scripturally aligned. So I created these forms for you, and all you have to do, as always, is let me put the banner up. Shoot me an email at sister7@gmail.com to get your documents. Okay. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law is happy. That is our main duty. The main duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. And that is our goal here. And in that too, we need to create a vision. So we're going to use these SMART goals to help us create our leadership plan. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law is happy. We're here to train ourselves to think biblically, not emotionally. As always, I tell you, this is not to tell you not to feel what you feel, but that's what one of your tools are going to be for, your journaling tool. You're going to start writing. Get that stuff out. You have to write, because first of all, you have to examine yourself. And if you're going to examine anything, you got to lay it on the table and open it up. That is the purpose of you journaling. So listen, the only way you're going to do this, you're going to keep telling yourself you don't have time, you're busy. You are going to have to block the time. I literally have blocked out a hour in my schedule for whatever I'm going to do, and I make sure I block time for journaling and reading now. And so I would highly recommend blocking off time in the morning and in the afternoon. You get two 15-minute breaks to get an hour break at where I work. Whatever your breaks are, or however your schedule is, block time for you, at least a 20-minute journaling session, so that you have time for you. At work, you need to have time to separate yourself from the nonsense that goes on your job. You need those breaks where you go clear your head. Make sure part of our leadership development is to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, because I know I have a tendency to, when I get work and at my desk, I don't want to get up and move around. Once I park my car, especially if I have to be there all day, I'm not moving. I might, I'm not doing anything. So now I'm blocking the time and scheduling with one of my 15-minute breaks. Go walk, meditate and pray. One. Some of my lunch breaks, go for a walk, eat a healthy lunch. But I will tell you all, I want you to start preparing, because part of this program too, for me, if you have your own and you don't need to do this, that's fine. But those of you who are having health issues, or you're struggling with your weight like me, um, we're getting ready to really do some serious work on that. And for me, I realized, like, the first step of powerlessness and surrendering this thing with my health over to God, because I've been trying to manage it for the last 48 years, and clearly I don't have it right. So I am admitting that I am powerless there, and I am turning my health over to God. And so, for me, it means that I am starting the phases of doing that. And we can talk about that in the group as well. We're here to fellowship with one another. I told you guys last week, and in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about it. You need to be working on developing your own personal board of directors. You need to have your own council. Who are the women and men and people in your life that you go to ask questions, to bounce ideas off of? Because again, if Moses, who was talking directly to God, was able to take advice from his father-in-law, I mean, I'm just going to tell you, you're not leading a nation of people. You need help too. His father-in-law gave him direction and he received it. He could have been like, listen, man, I talked to God directly. If he wanted me to do that, that's what I'd be doing. But even Moses understood that the Most High will sometimes send people to tell you what he wants. So Proverbs 11:14, where no counsel is, the people fall, but in a multitude of counselors there is safety. Create your board of directors. Create your wise counsel. Vet these men, women, and make sure that they are people you can trust. People who want to see you win. People who genuinely care about you, your family, and they want to see your relationship win, your financials win. They want to see your profession. They want to see you win professionally. Okay. Proverbs 20 and 19 and 20 says, "Hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou may be wise in thy latter end." Ain't no fool like an old fool. Can't nobody tell you nothing. So you know everything. Say it ain't. Get you some wise counsel. Proverbs 28 and 26 says that he that trusteth in his own heart is a fool, but whoso walk wisely shall be delivered. You walk wisely when you have a multitude of counsel, because there is safety. And that doesn't mean you just believe anybody and everybody. You try the spirit. You vet these people. Christ told you you will know them by what? Their fruit. Is this person living what they're telling you to do? Are they walking a walk? Or are they at least trying? You want to be in community with people who are walking on the same journey as you are. You can't be trying to go somewhere with somebody. How can two walk together unless they be agreed? If you going to Canada and I'm going to Albuquerque, we're not going to the same place, okay? First John 4 and 1 said, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirit whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world." I don't care if somebody has a title. A title does not make you a leader. And a title does not make you have morals and ethics. You better vet these people instead of just trusting them and investing in them. We are here to sharpen each other. Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpeneth iron. So a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. You need to surround yourself with people who are going to help you grow. And so this brings me to where we are right now. We're taking a pause. We're going to listen to the law of magnetism today. But we're pausing because I realized that we needed to go deeper. And I realized that I wanted to go deeper for me personally. Because again, this is me sharing my leadership journey with you all. So from here on, we went through the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader. Now we're on the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And as I go through here, now that we've hit the law of magnetism, after going back, and looking at those 12-step programs and the powerlessness and the spending time in Jonah, I come to understand that I needed to redevelop this plan. And I needed to add my own layers to it. And so we're stopping here because the law of magnetism today is you attract who you are. As we reached this law, it became clear that leadership is not just learned, it's formed. And so this is going to be us forming it. So before going forward, we're going to build this foundation a bit stronger. And that's why I'm adding these additional books to this. I want you to know this pause is intentional. We always talk about the power of the pause. And I did a post on that on the Hebrew Woman page. Pausing is not just about negative interactions, because we always say practice the power of pause when things aren't going right. You can also pause wherever you are, even in leadership. Like there was nothing going wrong here in this program. However, I realized that we could go deeper. And I realized that we needed to reset. For me, I needed to reset. So hopefully, if you are with me on this journey, you're going to understand this pause and this pivot and why it makes sense. So I gave you the reasons here for why we're stopping here. Leadership without process becomes information, not transformation. I don't know if you guys are doing the exercise that I share. I don't know if you're doing anything additional outside. And maybe it's because we don't have it. So I'm going to provide it. And we need a community of accountability. Communities are important for growth. And it made sense when I thought about it. That's why 12-step programs have communities. That's why they have meetings, right? So that's why I built a Facebook group. We got to have a community. Tools must be taught, not assumed. The Bible is one of your tools. That's your primary tool. Now, how do you use it? So I'll give you some things to show you how to study, how to pray, meditate, fast. All these things, we're going to walk through this. We're going to go and prepare for a 3-day fast. Some of you may not be in a position health-wise to jump into a fast. So what you are going to do is you're going to slowly do an elimination diet. Pick something and get rid of it, starting today. And if you've already done it, ate it, whatever, start tomorrow. So if that means giving up dairy this week, try a week without dairy. Then the next week, you're going to do a week without meat or sugar, whichever. Now, the sugar you may not be ready for because that's going to be, as a matter of fact, I know what I'll do for you all. We're going to do the 10-day sugar detox. Join the Facebook group. I'm going to post the 10-day sugar detox in there. That way you don't have to just jump all in. The only thing you're going to jump in is with the sugar. That's going to be hard enough, but you'll still be able to eat meat and some of the other things that you eat. So it won't be as taxing, because I know I have to slow walk you, especially if you haven't done any fasting and things of that nature. So we're going to stop and we're rebooting because when we listen to the law of magnetism, it's all gonna come together for you. But the Women of Titus Leadership Foundation, this Facebook group is our community. This is going to be our community for now, where we're going to go. You're going to post your SMART goals. You're going to go in there and fellowship with one another. You might need to just go in there and drop what you're doing. And I'm also going to do either the Zoom room chat or we're going to do the Clubhouse chat. Let's just say for right now, I'm going to start with Clubhouse since it's already set up for me and it's easy for everybody to just jump into. And I'll post that information in the chat as well. Coming soon, this collection will be ready for you all, and these sheets will be things that you can just copy and make new um, copies of for whatever the next um, tool or leadership lesson. You'll be able to use these refillable sheets, and you can probably get you a really pretty 3-ring binder that you can punch holes and put these in, and that way you can add to it. So let's talk about our building our foundation. So you know Torah, the Bible is our foundation, right? Now, some of the bricks that we are adding are these books. We are still doing the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. The reason why you're going to get, and let me tell you, these books, you can literally go to Thrift Books right now and get these books for $5. Okay, if you don't want to buy them brand, and some of them even new. Let's see, they have a very good, and whenever you see very good, that means the book is pretty much new or like new. And like new, they have a like new for $6. One that's good for $4.89. So Thrift Books is a great place to get books cheap, and you can pick, how much you want to spend. Invest in yourself, invest in your leadership program, and find a leadership program where you live. I'm telling you, I had a dynamic experience with Focus and in LA. I can't wait to do my next leadership program. I'm hoping it's going to be the Maxwell certification. I'm working on making that happen. But in the meantime, John Maxwell, the 21 most powerful minutes in a leader's day. You need to get this if you're going to do the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership with me now. I will share as much of this with you as I can in group. However, this is going to be key to also your daily readings, right? And then John Maxwell, think on these things. You will read one of these a day as well. Now, so the 21 most powerful minutes of a leader's day. It has all of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership in the front. The purpose of this book is it's an accompaniment to the book, and I'll tell you right here. This book is a leadership development tool. It's not meant to be read through one sitting. It is designed to be consumed in daily bites, digested slowly. So put it someplace where you can conveniently read it 5 days a week. If you go through the process as I've intended, you will spend the next 21 weeks working your way through the material. This book is organized around the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And so you can know the law of process. Leadership is not built in a day, it's built one day at a time. And so that is why I added this, because one of the great things about this book is each week you will spend 4 days learning leadership from a different biblical figure. Every day focuses on one of the predominant leadership thoughts, and it contains a lesson learned through the biblical leader and poses a question that you can meditate on all day. The 5th day will help you change your focus from thinking about leadership to acting on it. If you take these steps, you will become a better leader. And so as I got to doing the first exercise, and I've just been doing it and doing the other stuff, looking at the 12-step program with it, and I just really got to thinking about how I could develop my own program and think on these things. These are just a daily meditation. You can read these once a week. I like these, and it starts off with the scripture of thinking on these things. Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. This cannot, because what's going to happen here, what I'm seeing, this becomes just like a person going to church on Sunday. It turns into Sunday worship on the Sabbath. And that's not our goal here. Our goal is to progress spiritually and leadership wise. And so that law process has to happen. There has to be a compound effect. And I was like, I'm doing a compound effect of my own, but are the late women of Titus doing it as well? Do they have these things? So I want to give you an opportunity to make sure you get your foundation. Order your books tomorrow, or this evening at sunset when the sun goes down. Order your 21 most powerful minutes in a leader a day and think on these things. And we will use these supplements. Again, you're going to get your 21 irrefutable laws of leadership printout. You're going to get your smart plan printout, and I have a couple of other printouts for you guys to go. The exercise for the day is already on the Hebrew Woman show. These are your reflections and accountability. That's the second sheet. That's also already there, and you can see here. Let's see. Yeah, so just shoot me an email, and I'll send them to you. The reflections for the lesson of the day is already over there. And without further ado, my friends, it's time to jump into law number 9, the law of magnetism. And I am going to be commenting all through the video. For a while I had just been letting it play, but I feel like sometimes I just want to give more feedback in my thoughts as we go through the chapters, because you should be having the book as well. And also I strongly recommend you getting the workbook. And if you cannot get the workbook, I will share it in group as well. The workbook is good because you can write in it, or you can just print out the pages if it's something you want to go back to and do here and there. But I'll share the exercises from the workbook in the group, and we can have discussions about the prompts in the workbook. As a matter of fact, I think that'll be a good way to do it, because if you don't make yourself do this stuff, you'll just sit here and you'll just be just like a person going to church every Sunday. You'll just be a Sunday observer and not actually practicing scripture and law. So that's it.
Leadership law number 9, the law of magnetism. Who you are is who you attract. Effective leaders are always on the lookout for good people. I think each of us carries around a mental list of what kind of people we would like to have in our organization or department. Think about it. Do you know who you're looking for right now? What is your profile of a perfect employee?
I'm going to say this too. This is not just about leadership. Who you are is who you attract. This goes for relationships as well. Some of you are looking around, you're looking for a man, which it says he that findeth, but listen, however, the point is, you're going to get who you are. If you are not attracting quality partners, if you are not attracting quality friendships, if you are finding yourself in the same situations on the job over and over again, this is where I had to do a 2 Corinthians 13:5 and examine myself, because at some point, if something keeps showing up in your life, the Most High wants you to learn a lesson that you clearly did not get, or you would not keep going through it over and over again.
Leadership law number 9, the law of magnetism. Who you are is who you attract. Effective leaders are always on the lookout for good people. I think each of us carries around a mental list of what kind of people we would like to have in our organization or department. Think about it. Do you know who you're looking for right now? What is your profile of a perfect employee? What qualities would that person possess? Would you want them to be aggressive and entrepreneurial, kind and compassionate? How about technically savvy, highly relational? Stop right now. Now, just take a moment. Make a list of the qualities you'd like in the people on your team. Find a pencil or pen and do it now before I read you any more of the chapter. Now, what will determine whether the people you want are the people you get, whether they will possess the qualities that you desire? You may be surprised by the answer. Believe it or not, who you attract is not determined by what you want. It's determined by who you are. Go back to the list that you just made, and for each characteristic that you identified, decide whether you possess that quality. For example, if you wrote that you would like great leaders and you're an excellent leader, well, now that's a match. You can put a check beside that one. But if your leadership is no better than average, then maybe you need to put an X and write only average leader next to it. You see, If you wrote that you want people who are entrepreneurial and you possess that quality, again, you put a check. And if you don't possess it, put an X beside it and kind of just, review the list. You see, if you have a bunch of X's, then you're in trouble because the people you describe are not the type who will want to follow you. In most situations, unless you have taken strong measures to counteract it, you draw people to you who possess the same qualities that you do. That's the law of magnetism. Who you are is who you attract. When I was a kid, my mother used to tell me that birds of a feather flock together. She sometimes said it to warn me away from bad influences, but even as a child, I think I instinctively recognized that good students spend time with good students, athletes with other athletes, leaders with leaders, and I've seen it play out during my entire adult life too. In 2011, I co-founded an organization called the John Maxwell Team to prepare entrepreneurs to become independent coaches, trainers, and speakers. Not everyone in my other organizations believed that it could be successful. One skeptic stated his belief that we would never recruit more than a couple hundred people. But I, along with a few others, were convinced that we would attract many people who crave success in these areas. Why? Because I had always been entrepreneurial in my thinking, and I'd spent more than 40 years dedicated to learning, growing, and working as a speaker, trainer, and a coach. And I was convinced that other people who had similar aspirations would be attracted to our organization and the training that we would provide. Now, I'm glad to say that the organization has been highly successful. And in 10 years, we've attracted and trained 40,000 entrepreneurs to become coaches, trainers, and speakers. In fact, many have joined our organization because they initially learned from some of our coaches and they wanted to become certified themselves. Our trainers come in ready to learn and they're hungry for success. Our faculty teaches them skills, but they also teach them the values that are important to us that we want them to carry with them as they coach others and as they speak.
I want to stop right there and talk a little bit about, those traits. Like we want to look at some of the traits that you're looking for, um, particularly if it comes to building a team, but also in your family, right? And the people who you want around you. I like in Patrick Lencioni's book, The Ideal Team Player, and he talked about those key traits that you want to be around people who are humble, hungry, and smart. Because you don't want to be around any dumb people. But if you want to be around people who think they know everything and you can't tell them anything, that that's not going to work either. So that's where the humility comes in. You want to be with people who are smart enough to know that they don't know everything, but they recognize their gifts and their talents. And for you, being a leader, it's your job to develop that not only in yourself, but you want to help develop and cultivate it in your children. Leadership starts young. Teach children how to lead themselves because these are tools that a lot of us didn't receive growing up. And if you're blessed and when you come from a family like him where he says he grew up with his father being in leadership and teaching him those things, we're learning these some things, a lot of us ad hoc or as we go along. So just being willing to be humble yourself and admit that you don't know everything. I know so many leaders, especially women, because women are really picked on a lot in the workplace, and we always feel like we have to prove ourselves, especially black women. You're always feeling like you have to prove your worth. Either in their mind, you're an effect of affirmative action hire, DEI now is the buzzword, or you're sleeping with somebody, or you're a favor, some nonsense like that. You never earn in their minds, you don't deserve to be here. You were just given this and it leads people to a sense of arrogance or the need to prove to where they don't have any humility or the ability to allow other voices in because you're in protection mode. And I understand that. But at some point, that's where that spirit of discernment, that law of intuition we talked about last week, that's where your intuition comes in. Listen to it, trust it, and try the spirit so you'll know if these people are people who you can rely on. But I will say this, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And that's one thing I did watch a leader fail in. She was too free with her information. She was too open with her team. And that ended up hurt. And it's really crazy because you think if you're open, honest, and you're loving that people will receive it. But no, we have to understand that we live in a real world. And I think that Robert Greene has a point where One of the reasons why a lot of us get hurt so bad in workplaces and other situations is because not only do we not want to accept the fact that we have a dark side, we don't want to accept it in others. We are taught as we go out into the world that people genuinely do the right thing if you just give them the opportunities. Then that's just not true. People will genuinely show up and be cowards. They will genuinely stand and watch you get beat up in a mall, stabbed to death in a mall like they did that young woman. I hate to say that. People will watch you get targeted and victimized on your job, and they will not collectively come together to help you. They will keep their heads down and be quiet. And that's hard to accept, but people will not, as a whole, genuinely stand up and do the right thing. If that was the case, slavery wouldn't have happened. If that was the case, there would have been no need for the civil rights movement. And if you know about that movement, you know that it was only a remnant of people who led and participated in that. So the idea that you are just going to go to work and you're going to suddenly be around a bunch of wonderful, magnificent, honest, moral, upright people filled with integrity, love, and light, think again. And that might sound cynical, it might sound bad, but it is the reality. And the fact of the matter is, you need to think about your own self, and you have your own dark side and dark thoughts. You're not perfect either. So just like you have to be willing to accept that in yourself, you got to pay attention to it in others.
So I sit down with all of our people and I share with them what our values are: valuing people, maintaining a positive attitude, growing daily, leading by example, living with intentionality, exceeding clients' expectations, equipping others, becoming catalysts for transformation, and even leaving some room in their life for faith. When we teach these values, everyone at
I don't want to go back through those values again because let me tell you something. And again, you notice the key point, leadership daily. That is why you're going to get that book because the 21 most powerful minutes in a leader's day, you need to block your time for these exercises because that is how you're going to grow. And before you know it, the months are going to pass, the time is going to pass, and you're going to be like, wow, all this writing, all this reading, this shit paid off. Okay, I am where I want to be. So I just want to go back through those again.
with all of our people and I share with them what our values are: valuing people, maintaining a positive attitude, growing daily, leading by example, living with intentionality, exceeding clients' expectations, equipping others, becoming catalysts for transformation, and even leaving some room in their life for faith. When we teach these values, everyone at the training knows that if they don't want to embrace these values, we'll refund their money with no hard feelings, and they can seek out a different training that appeals to them. As far as I know, no one has ever declined our values and asked for a refund. And I'm glad to say that the people we train go out and they add value to people in more than 160 countries all around the world. Maybe you have started thinking about the people you have attracted in your organization. You might say to yourself, wait a minute, I can name 20 things that make the people I lead different from me. And my response would be, of course you can. We're all individuals. But the people who are drawn to you probably have more similarities than differences, especially in a few key areas. For example, generation. Most organizations reflect the characteristics of their key leaders, and that includes their age. During the dot-com boom in the 1990s, thousands of companies were founded by people in their 20s and early 30s. And who did they hire? Others in their 20s and 30s. In just about any type of organization, much of the time, the people come on board are similar in age to the leaders who hire them. Attitude. Rarely have I seen positive and negative people attracted to one another. People who view life as a series of opportunities and exciting challenges don't want to hear others complain about how bad things are all the time. Attitude is one of the most contagious qualities a human being possesses. People with good attitudes tend to make people around them feel more positive. Those with terrible attitudes tend to bring others down.
I would add that we just went through myself and some other people the no asshole rule. That is the book I recommend you reading because it really talks about how assholes hire assholes and they proliferate in the workspace. And then that's why we go back to Patrick Lencioni's the ideal team player. If you want positive people around you, if you want people with a growth mindset, you have to have those people in place. If you have people who are ethically and morally corrupt and questionable, that is what you are going to find because they find each other. They hire each other. So that is why the vetting process is really important, even when you create but the beautiful thing about it is when you are on the right path and when you're trying to do and grow spiritually, you will attract people who are going to be doing what you're doing. The beautiful thing is if you're trying to walk morally upright, people who aren't, they're not going to want to be around you anyway. And especially in a workplace, it can be very isolating. But let me tell you something. I just enjoy the silence and keep it pushing.
Background. In the chapter on the law process, I wrote about Theodore Roosevelt. One of his memorable accomplishments was his daring charge up San Juan Hill with the Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War. Roosevelt personally recruited that all-volunteer army, and it was said to be a remarkably peculiar group of people. It was comprised primarily of two types of men, wealthy aristocrats from the Northeast and cowboys from the Wild West. Why? Because TR was aristocratic-born, Harvard-educated New Yorker who turned himself into a real-life cowboy and a big-game hunter in the Dakotas of the West. He was a strong, genuine leader in both worlds, and as a result, he attracted both kinds of people. People attract and are attracted to others of similar background. Blue-collar workers tend to stick together. People with education tend to respect and value others who are also well-educated. And to be blunt, people tend to hire employees of the same race unless they make an intentional effort to break that pattern. That's why the NFL introduced the Rooney Rule, which requires teams to interview at least one minority candidate for every head coaching position. This natural magnetism is so strong that organizations that value diversity have to fight against it. Values. People are attracted to leaders whose values are similar to theirs. Think about the people who flocked to President John F. Kennedy after he was elected in 1960. He was a young idealist who wanted to change the world, and he attracted people with a similar profile. When he formed the Peace Corps and called people to service, saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," thousands of young, idealistic people stepped forward to answer the challenge. The law of magnetism is in effect whether the shared values are positive or negative. Think about someone like Adolf Hitler. He was a strong leader, as you can judge by his level of influence, but his values were rotten to the core. What kind of people did he attract? Leaders with similar values. Joseph Goebbels, a bitter anti-Semite who ran Hitler's propaganda machines. Reinhard Heydrich, second in command of the Nazi secret police, who ordered mass executions of Nazi opponents. And Heinrich Himmler, chief of the SS and director of the Gestapo, who initiated this systematic execution of Jews. They are all strong leaders, and they were all utterly evil men. The law of magnetism is powerful. Whatever character you possess is what you will find in the people who follow you. Energy. It's a good thing that people with similar levels of energy are attracted to one another, because when you pair a high-energy person with a low-energy person and ask them to work closely together, they can drive one another crazy. The high-energy person thinks the low-energy one is lazy, and the low-energy person thinks the high-energy one is out of control. Giftedness. People are most likely to respect and follow someone who possesses their kind of talent. Business people want to follow leaders with the skill in building an organization and making a profit. Football players want to follow coaches who can win championships. Creative people want to follow other creatives who are willing to think outside the box. Like does attract like. Leadership ability. Finally, the people you attract will have leadership ability similar to your own. As I said in discussing the law of respect, people naturally follow leaders stronger, better than themselves. But you also have to factor in the law of magnetism, which states that who you are is who you attract. So if you are a 7 when it comes to leadership, you're more likely to draw 5s and 6s to you than 2s and 3s. The leaders you attract will be similar in style and ability to you. The law of magnetism is a double-edged sword. If you've never done more than go with the flow, you'll attract others like you. However, if you've worked hard, developed your skills, leveraged your talent, and achieved success, you will attract similarly driven and successful people. But they may be so much like you that your team has serious holes and blind spots that work against you. As you read this chapter, which of these two situations do you find yourself in? Are you saying to yourself, I'm not crazy about the people I'm attracting. Am I stuck with my situation? The answer is no. If you are dissatisfied with the leadership ability of the people you are attracting, then embrace the law of process and work to increase your leadership skill. If you want to grow an organization, grow the leader. If you find the people you attract to be unreliable or untrustworthy, then examine your character. Developing strong character can be a more difficult road, but the payoff is huge. Good character improves every aspect of your life. On the other hand, you may be saying, I like who I am. I like the kind of people that I attract. That's great. Now take the next step in effective leadership. Work at recruiting people who are different from you. Hire people different from you with strengths where you are weak. Someone who both used the law of magnetism and needed to fight against it to be successful was Angela Arndt, the former senior vice president of retail at Apple and CEO of Burberry. In 2006, when Arndt accepted the job at Burberry, she left a job she loved as an executive vice president at fashion company Liz Claiborne. The main reason she left was because she wanted a chance to work with a luxury brand, but Burberry was a brand that was in trouble. The organization had a long history, founded in 1856 by Thomas Burberry. The company took off when the founder invented gabardine, a breathable, weatherproof fabric that revolutionized rainwear. After outfitting explorers such as Roald Amundsen and Ernest Shackleton, the reputation of Burberry's patented gabardine took off. The coats made of fabric were so hard-wearing and useful that the British Army gave Burberry a contract to manufacture them during World War I. Those coats came to be known as trench coats. Humphrey Bogart wore a Burberry trench coat in Casablanca, and forms of that coat are still in style today. Despite Burberry's notoriety and success and the reception of 2 royal warrants, the company was no longer a respected brand.
I don't know why our audio stopped here, but let's see if I can get it back going. I think let me see if refreshing. I was just thinking about too, just some of the exercises that don't feel like these, getting these 2 books, like you're just going to be busy and you're not going to have time, because the 21 most powerful minutes in a leader's day, the first exercise is literally the first reading, 3 pages. So this is not something that is going to be burdensome or taxing that I'm giving you all, like, oh my God, all these books. No, this these exercises are, because they're really meditation and reflection sections for you to go right in, so you can think and think about it. It'll give you the power of the pause during your work day as well, because you'll be able to stop and reflect and check in. It'll be a gut check to make sure, hey, am I doing this and I'm not just a Sabbath server? You're making sure you're doing this during the week.
Where they once produced high-end apparel for a contract to manufacture them during World War I. Those coats came to be known as trench coats. Humphrey Bogart wore a Burberry trench coat in Casablanca, and forms of that coat are still in style today. Despite Burberry's notoriety and success and the reception of 2 royal warrants, the company was no longer a respected brand. Where they once produced high-end apparel for years, Burberry had sold their name through dozens of licenses to manufacturers around the world who produced all manner of non-luxury products, including doggy diapers with Burberry's patented and once revered plaid design. Arndt was determined to turn Burberry around and to make it not only respected again, but appealing to younger buyers. She also wanted to make it the largest luxury fashion brand in the world. Fortunately, already working at Burberry was a designer that she had worked with and greatly respected, Christopher Bailey. She partnered with him to set Burberry in a new direction. We really reconnected, and we actually put the strategy together on the back of a napkin, said Arndt. She saw a clear way forward. She would reinforce our heritage, our Britishness, by emphasizing and growing our core luxury products, innovating them, and keeping them at the heart of everything we did. Because Arndt was now leading a large staff, whom she had not herself attracted, she needed to work to get everyone on board. I have to admit that some managers were cynical. A lot of them had been at Burberry for a really long time. So she came up with a solution. She said maybe 6 months in, we had a huge offsite meeting, and we had 200 of the top executives from around the world who flew in. I'm a pretty good read of people. My right brain kicks in, and I'm just watching. And this was for 2 or 3 days. And at the very end, I got up and I said, look, this is the strategy. This is what we're doing. And I know that some of you are skeptical, and I know you've been here for a long time, and I know the way you think you're doing it in Hong Kong or Korea is the best, but it's not. We won't win. We're not winning now, and you're not, right? And I said, so I'm happy to meet with you after this meeting and give you the greatest retirement package. I'm not looking to hurt anybody, but you need to walk out of here 100% believing in everything that we're doing, or I don't want you on the team. And I will take care of you. But we can't afford it. We have no time. Another significant thing she did was facilitate changes to Burberry's board. Most of its members were older, and since Arndt wanted the brand to become more tech-savvy and appeal to younger customers, especially millennials, she put younger people on the board and asked the older members who were stepping off to mentor them. The move struck a great balance between attracting and empowering people more like herself while harnessing the wisdom and experience of those who served the company before her, and she hired a younger staff. In 2013, she noted that most of the employees at their corporate headquarters in London were under 30. In 2014, Arndt left the company to work for Apple. In the 8 years Arndt led Burberry as a CEO, the company's stock price doubled. So did revenue and operating income. According to Interbrand, Burberry was the fastest-growing luxury brand and the fourth fastest-growing brand globally, behind Apple, Google, and Amazon. Once you understand the law of magnetism, you can see it at work in just about any kind of situation: business, government, sports, education, the military, and more. And once you embrace it, you can use it to improve your team and organization. How do people you are currently attracting look to you? Are they the strong, capable, potential leaders that you desire? Or could they be better? Remember, their quality depends less on a hiring process, a human resources department, or even what you consider to be the quality of your area's applicant pool. It depends more on you. Who you are is who you attract. That's the law of magnetism. If you want to attract better people, become the kind of person that you desire. When I think of the law of magnetism, I think back at the days when I was a pastor. For 25 years, I pastored congregations, and the last one was in San Diego, California. And I followed the founding pastor, who had been there for 34 years. By the time I became lead pastor, I was 33. So he founded the church before I was born. When I came to that church, I found that it was just full of gifted musicians. They had phenomenal writers. They had phenomenal bands. And it seemed like everybody was a musician. The founding pastor, a good, wonderful man, Orville Butcher, was himself a highly gifted Irish tenor. Sang incredibly, played the piano magnificently, just a gifted musician. So what I discovered was, very interestingly enough, people that loved music were attracted to that church. Now, when I came 34 years later, I am not a gifted musician at all. Trust me, I'm a gifted leader. Over the next 4 to 5 years, I watched the type of people who were attracted to the church change. Now, we still had a great music department, but I began to attract business people. I began to attract entrepreneurs. I began to attract leaders. Within 6, 7 years, there was a shift that had pretty much been completed. We went from attracting incredibly gifted musicians to attracting incredibly gifted leaders. Why? The law of magnetism. You attract who you are, not who you want. As I think back at that incredible experience, I look at people, I look at leaders, and I say to them 2 things. One is, because of the law of magnetism, you will attract people like yourself. And number 2, you have to be very intentional to attract and appeal to different people. You want diverse people with backgrounds, experiences. This is what you want. And how you attract them is to put different leaders in your organization that are different than you and let them recruit the people to the team. Here's what I've said. I want diversity in education, background, all of the things that we want to have people be different than ours. Giftedness, talents, I want that. But I want everybody to be united with vision and values. Where we're going, I want them to be all on the same page. What we value, I want them to embrace that. So the law of magnetism and values and vision will serve you well, but you have to be intentional to bring other people that are not like you into your and onto your team, because it's natural for you to get people just like yourself. You want people to complement you, to complete your giftedness by having other gifts so that you can be a whole team. That's what makes the best organizations.
That is why we are pausing and we're going back. And so it makes sense to me to just stop there because you attract who you are. And I've changed in these last couple of months, even just in how I perceive leadership. And so, and I saw that there was a need to add to the process. So this pause is not about excuses, it's about adding tools. And so this is where the power of that pause comes in, and it's not about delay because you're doing the tools, you're doing the steps, you've been listening to the videos, and hopefully you have the books. But it's just like with the Bible, right? Whenever I hear somebody say, "Oh, I read the Bible," I don't take them seriously because like I know, that it is a book that we just reference and we read over and over again. You can literally read Genesis every day, and whatever's going on in your life, you can read Exodus, you can read whatever, and every time as you grow, it grows with you. And so we're going to implement the power of the pause here because this is about building structure. This is not a delay. Don't think of it as going backwards because you're still doing these processes. You're still growing, okay? So this is about building a more solid foundation, and this is about getting clarity. I believe adding these books are going to be important to building our foundation. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. I'm going to show you one more time. The link is in the chat, so please click the link. If I already know you, you just shoot me an email at sister7@gmail.com and let me know what profile name you're adding. I promise you this space will be heavily vetted. Anybody and everybody is not allowed in here because we don't have time to play. We have too much work to do. We have too much, and time is short. I know I'm not a spring chicken, and I don't want to waste my time or anybody else's. So for people who are genuinely interested in growing and trying to develop as a leader and or just achieve some goals that they have, you don't want to be bothered with people who are just in here playing. Your journaling prompt exercise is already here. It's already up and ready to go. And it is about the law of magnetism. You're going to go through and you're going to ask yourself these questions. You're going to want to know, who am I attracting into my leadership space, as a matter of fact. But I just wanted to give you guys another look at the group. This is going to be our new community. This is our space. These are things that I'm going to be developing and putting in here and getting together for you. And hopefully, as we grow, we'll have other women in leadership sharing their articles, sharing their lessons, and coming on and sharing lessons that they put together that they want to share and teach you. So this is a community that has a lot of opportunity for growth. And that's about it. Let me go here real quick. Oh, I took my slide out. Before I get off here, I just want to show you one more thing. If I can get the slideshow to load back up on here. Well, maybe that means it's time to get off because I do not know why it does not want to load. Let me try removing some of the things that I have in the studio. Again, um, it really doesn't want to load. Okay, well, since it won't load, at any rate, email me at sister7@gmail.com. The leadership exercises, the reflections, they're already in there. I was going to try to pull them up on the screen because They were there, but it doesn't want to do it. So I know when to fold them. Get your books, get them today. If you can order them now, go to Thrift Books. You can get them cheap, or if you want to buy them new, you can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, ABE, wherever you get your books. Order your books and participate in the program. I look forward from hearing from you all. You can always comment on the channel as well, and I will get the link posted here in the community tab for the clubhouse room and the Facebook group in case you didn't get it. Okay, so I'll put all that here so you can join these different communities and we will work on this together. Together we get better, we build, and we help one another. Shalom. Thanks a lot.